Hi guys, and welcome to the Business as Usual show. I hope you like our new intro that we have put together. A little bit of drone footage. I managed to control the kids briefly whilst we were able to do that. Today is episode number 9. We are going to be joined in a moment by Ben Towers, a ridiculously young entrepreneur who's done far more than I've done already. I don't know how he's managed to do it so quickly, but we're going to hear from Ben and get some insights, potentially talking a bit more about mental health, the challenges that this particular scenario is bringing in. One of the businesses Ben's is involved with focuses on mental health, so get some ideas around how you can support your team during that time period. So the purpose behind the show, so the reason why we do this is these are unusual times, and we thought that it's a great opportunity to get people together, start talking about some of the challenges that they face. At the same time, be a little bit more light-hearted towards the end of the show. If you've got a beer, now is the time to break that out, and hopefully, we can feel a little bit less isolated, despite the fact that we are all in isolation. So, without further ado, Ben, how you doing? You there, mate?
Yeah, I'm very good. How are you?
Good. Yeah, good. I've now, I don't know, I've kind of upped my branding game. I popped into the office today. The guys have been doing some kind of cool merch, and it's all been delivered to the office. So I've quickly gone and revamped this. This was my parents' bedroom. They're stuck in Corfu, and so I've completely taken it over and repainted their walls. So they're going to be super happy about that. I'm sure they're going to be excited about what I've done to it, and I hope they like purple. So, how are you doing? Where are you based now? Are you looking
Yeah,
very well set up there as well?
I'm in London, some West Kensington, just West London. So
Hmm.
moved away out of Kent start of the year, which obviously it's a weird time to move out of home and suddenly move out and then be locked in.
Yeah. Do you are you missing the kind of the home comforts? Was it better
Definitely.
on your own? Not on your own? What would you rather?
Well, at home I have a dog and I like to have a family and so on around me. Whereas here it's me and a friend who we're launching a new business with, living together here. So it's more of like a workhouse now than it is more of a home environment. But no, that's what lockdown doing, I suppose.
I'm guessing though it must be super productive because this is like back in the day with me and Ant when we started the business, it was literally we were living together, and in the dining room was the office. So although it was probably a little bit intense, we managed to get through a lot of work pretty quickly.
Oh, you get through a load of work because you don't stop, and then you just knock on the other person's door and go, "Come on, back on the email." You just forever going. But yeah, I'm not the first one up, so I can't say I'm the one doing that. But yeah,
Yeah.
we are getting a lot more done, and I think it's also quite good bonding and understanding and so on. So it's working well, but we are ready to get back out. We've got an office about 10 minutes down the road, so I'm ready to get back in there and get working.
Okay, nice. So you mentioned the business that you guys are working on. Do you want to give us a bit of an intro into what you're up to?
Yeah, so it's all around mental health and employee engagement within organisations. So we're looking at how can we build community within organisations to help staff with their well-being, and then help employers better understand their staff to provide better strategies and support for them. So
Mm.
we're currently working with a number of interesting companies in the UK. In about 2 months' time, we'll be rolling out and starting to implement and do a few pilot programs within them. And then at the moment, we're developing the technology.
Amazing. So how does how does your company help companies to understand their staff better? How does it work? Just give us a sort of a quick elevator pitch of it.
Yeah, so bringing it into how it is right now as well in modern times. So one of the actual leading causes of ill mental health is social isolation, and it's the lack
Okay.
of that community around you. So our
Mm.
approach in mental health is taking it right back to a preventative point of view and saying not necessarily about treatment and that sort of thing, because loads of resources and support out there, but saying what can you do from day one to get the community around you to support you to then help you to be more preventative in the long term and so on. So that's our approach. And where we
Interesting.
understand an employees better is by being a platform where you then join communities, then from a completely anonymized point of view. So employers can understand their employees, their sort of interests. So you can start to understand what percentage of their employees are looking into this sort of content, or what percentage of them are interested in dogs, or whatever that might be.
Mm. So what an interesting one, because yeah, so we try to do a lot around mental health, supporting the guys, and kind
Yeah.
of and obviously these are particularly challenging times. One of the things that was interesting, obviously, before this whole scenario was almost the negative impact of technology. So, one of the things that kind of came up a lot in conversations was, particularly smartphones. How do these things constantly interrupt your lives, and actually the implications that have. And I think it was I think it was 16 to 18 or 16 to 21 age bracket feeling the most isolated out of all the age brackets, despite having constant connectivity and, you know, more tech savvy, all the kind of social networks in order to, you know, feel connected to people, but yet they felt more isolated. The current situation, I don't know what your thoughts, have you got any thoughts on this, or in terms of almost how technology is flip reversing that? So actually without the technology, we would, you know, we'd be even in a kind of much worse situation. So it's almost gone from the bad guy to potentially the good guy in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, there's almost 2 points in that. So obviously, your first point is around this generation being the most connected but disconnected generation. And I think that's a really scary thing of you don't have that time to be vulnerable with other people and really chat to them about either mental health or just generally as well.
Yeah.
And the second part about this tech change and transformation is obviously, in a sense, you could argue that COVID-19 has done what consultancies have been trying to do for years and years and years, and just done it so quickly. But yeah, the interesting thing about where this all changes is now meaning that, from a mental health point of view, you're reliant for a lot of people on technology, on their phone and so on, to chat to others and get that support. Because if they're living alone, especially, there's nobody else to see. You know, I've got friends who literally live a few miles away, you know, in London, but living on their own and really struggling with their mental health because of that lack of people. And so digital devices are becoming the only way they can keep connected.
Yeah. So based on the situation at the moment, what any advice you could kind of offer out in terms of how to, you know, stave off any kind of mental health issues? And, or, you know, we were talking a lot about, you know, technology is really important in terms of actually enabling these sorts of things, but you can't forget the kind of the core principles of culture and mental well-being in terms of, you know, what you have to normally do as a company. It's just a case of technology can now enable you to do it. Have you got any advice, any sort of views on what people could be doing to help their teams at this moment?
Yeah, so one of the interesting strategies that working with one of our clients on is they've put together a load of documentation, which have sent out to all of their staff. And the main thing that they're really trying to drum into is that sense of having that routine. Because so often when you're at home, you lose that. And we've got a psychologist who's then working on board and producing how the content actually works from that point of view. And the key thing we've found, when people work from home, they lose that routine, which then, with a mental health point of view, puts them in a tricky situation of then being able to close things and open new things. And what I mean by that is one of the best ways they've found, if it's how you like to function, then doing like a workout in the morning before going to work, when working from home, it helps give that transition, or going and cooking and then not working after that. And these transition periods are becoming so important for your mental health to make sure that you can turn off and turn on.
Interesting, because one of the things I was chatting to somebody today about this, and it's actually, obviously when you're in your office, you have that really rigid routine because of the, you know, the 9 to 5:30 aspect. Most businesses, and again, we kind of stick to that as a structure, not necessarily because our work couldn't be done outside of those hours, but a lot of our clients until recently were very much 9 to 5:30 type businesses. And I was wondering that, you know, when you're working from home, do you need to stick to that routine in the same way? I mean, my point being, is it beneficial to have a different routine? So, you know, I find I'm potentially more productive in certain periods of the day, and it might be in the evening once I've got the kids down type thing. I just wondered, you know, are you saying as long as there's a routine, it's still okay? It doesn't matter necessarily when you do the work, or would you suggest it's kind of sticking to a kind of the standard working hours?
Yeah, I think for me, the standard working hours have never been something I've always been a massive fan on. I'd say because of the change. I mean, for myself, I work brilliantly in the evening.
You were just saying that you were just getting out of bed late. That's probably why, though, isn't it?
Yeah, well, but then going to bed late as well, because I then work in the evenings, and so I've like
cycle.
Because everything's been stopped because of that, there's nothing to do in the evenings now. I've been able to work almost in my prime time and structure my day, keeping that routine, so I don't just work, you know, wake up, work, and sleep, still having that time to be on and off and so on, but restructuring it in a different way. Nice.
And so what's your thoughts on the current situation? How have you been faring? Because I know you do a lot of kind of public speaking, and obviously that's something that's been obviously not going to be happening other than a kind of a remote sort of scenario. How are you finding that? What sort of challenges have you've had because of this kind of recent situation?
Yeah, so all of public speaking's obviously been either cancelled or put on hold for a later date. So obviously that's not nice from that point of view. The rest of my work, so I do a lot of work with the UK government, and that's put a lot of stuff's been put on hold for that. So my work there is mainly looking at young people and technology, and we're meant to be launching the UK's first mass scale youth entrepreneurship review, which we delivered with for the government, and that was all looking at what can it take to encourage a young entrepreneur to start from Scunthorpe to Kent to London to all different parts of the UK, and what they need to be able to do that. And now all of the things like that have now been put on hold whilst obviously this current situation is worked on. So I think that's an interesting time from a day-to-day point of view from that side of things. From a business point of view and what we're doing with workplace well-being, it makes almost from a business point of view us needed more than ever because of the now changes in how things are working, distributed workforces and so on are now starting to have to be more prominent.
What's your thoughts as when things get back to sort of normal? I was having this conversation on LinkedIn, and I was saying that this, the situation is going to change. Inevitably has to change the way that we behave, and it's going to be quite a big impact, even if it's a small change. Even if we wash our hands more frequently, what that means for the society is probably pretty significant. What's your thoughts? Do you think we're going to revert back to where we were sort of 4 months ago? Do you anticipate sort of bigger changes? And then the second part, I guess, what does that mean for you in terms of your current workflow? Do you envisage more speaking, less speaking? Do you want to have more focus on the kind of the mental health business? How do you think it's all going to kind of pan out for you guys as well?
Yes, I'd say that I think that distributed workforces and working from home is going to become so much more common now. Especially now companies have now invested in technology, some of it rushed, but invested in that technology to be able to enable this. And I think people are now starting to realise some of the benefits of that, and that will start to be understood. Whereas some companies who have been a lot more hesitant from day one have now had to do it, and now obviously seeing sometimes the benefits, sometimes the negatives, and it's different cases to be found depending on the company. From a personal point of view, I mean, for me, speaking is by far my biggest income and running the business right now, because what you get paid as an entrepreneur compared to what you get paid for speaking are very different. So obviously hopeful that we'll get in more speaking events and so on. And I do think that a lot of these event companies will have to run their events because they get sponsorship and so on and income. So they'll have to still run that. So I'm hoping that they will still happen.
Do you think they're going to do more remote stuff? And, do you think that's a potential kind of opportunity?
Yeah, I think remote definitely is going to become more opportunity. My only issue with remote events and things like that is around networking and lack of being able to meet other people. I look back on my journey, and events literally created my business pipeline, created my networks, created my community around me because I was able to see them. Whereas if you go to an online event, you can't really do that because like right now, we'll sit here, we'll chat and we'll leave, and we never really get a chance to properly interact with everybody on the call and so on.
We've got a quiz tonight, Ben, at 7 o'clock. If you fancy getting back involved, mate, I know you've got a few more calls after this, but we can network after that. But I know we know each other.
I'll be out at that time as well.
Okay. That's your prime time working, I believe.
Yeah, it'd be good. Yeah, I'll be working at the same time.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think I'm interested. I think there's massive opportunities in remote space, but absolutely, I don't know what businesses do. I mean, is there a new form of networking that might? I mean, I think was it Facebook have got that virtual kind of avatar based environment. I wonder if that's the sort of stuff that comes out, because again, the other thought is that this may not be the last pandemic that we see from our generation. It could be something that actually unfortunately becomes something that's that happens again, and we go through the process again.
I'll tell you one thing that is quite interesting in the current time that I've realised is, so part of our work is obviously trying to engage with CHROs of very large organisations, and so our target customers are like 500 plus employees.
Yeah,
and so typically these people are crazily hard to get in front of because of life is hitting them and so on. And strangely, I think now, because of the way the world is and then working from home, I found it a lot easier to get calls with these decision makers, and actually becoming, strangely, I thought the other way around, but actually it's becoming quite easy because just message them on LinkedIn and try to build that communication and so on. But I think because of this change and now things being more online calls, people are now got a bit more structure in their day to find time because they're not being bombarded with other things because they haven't got capability to do so because they're not in an office.
Is there? I mean, we were talking the other week around the digital furlough group. So I think I messaged you, Mark Gaisford, Jenny from Yo-Yo, busy people.
Mm.
I think I messaged you guys at 10 o'clock and we had a call of us at 12. I mean,
Yeah.
how in the old world, I mean, that would just not happen. And I think
A couple of weeks away, and it'd be like trying to play battleships with our calendars. Yeah.
going backwards and forwards trying to find a time that we were all free. And I think that, I mean, I don't know how you're finding. I mean, you mentioned you've got 3 calls after this. I mean, it's because it's virtual, you can kind of rack and stack the calls. I don't know, again, not necessarily a good thing. There probably needs to be a break point somewhere, but the efficiency is the number of meetings I can get through in a day now has gone up, significantly since we've been working from home, because actually you've got no travel time. It's just like, cool, hi, how you doing? And you're straight into someone's living room. And I think that, I mean, do you think that's the sort of thing that might, again, be something that continues going forward for those businesses that now are forced to use technology?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that we can do shorter meetings, haven't got to do them a typical hour and so on. But I tell you, an interesting thing I've also found is, so we're currently doing recruitment for developers, and obviously they'll be working from home initially until we can bring them in. And I've actually found recruitment so much more interesting when you do it through video call, because you literally see them in their living room, so you understand them so much better. Like you see what they have, you see their interests, see if they've got books, see if they've got out things of vodka everywhere. You just literally start to know.
What do you think, mate? What do you think of my? What does it say?
It looks like a well-staged thing, doesn't it?
Literally, I'm having to do a post, I think, of what it looked like before and the gradual progression. I mean, I think I've overdone the branding a little bit. There's a little bit too much branding, but the guy's got the new hoodies out, and I was like, I've got to get one of those. Got to get involved with those. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, you've got insight into people's world, which obviously when you recruit people normally, everyone digs out their suit. They may never ever wear it. They dust it off and then they turn up in your office and they look the part, but actually that's not who they necessarily are. I guess you're seeing the kind of the more true perspective of actually how people are.
Exactly. Now they're sitting there in their gym gear with all their literally their life on display, their CVs put in front of you. And I think it's actually found it quite interesting. We've had some quite funny calls with people. One guy was doing the shisha whilst doing the interview, and we're just sitting there, we're just like, but the thing is, it's like, I'd rather know now that he's going to do calls like that than in the future. So it has been quite amusing in some cases.
Did that person get the job?
No, unfortunately not.
That's incredible. I mean, that is a bold maneuver. I have to say that is a really bold maneuver to try and pull off whilst you're having an interview. But I mean, that in itself is quite an interesting one. What do you think brands and businesses are going to do? Because this. I mean, hence why I'm doing a lot of remote talks at the moment, and this is now my brand. This is now my business. And if it wasn't looking nice, that's the judgment. That's almost a judgment call that those guys are making on me whilst I'm talking. So I mean, what does it mean for brands and businesses as well, like the whole remote working?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, typically a company would pay all this money into this office as being like their front end office. Typically they'll have a small space in London, but do the work in Kent or whatever it might be. Just as this sort of showcase. Yeah, whereas now you're almost being exposed right now to what it's actually like, and I think that's actually quite interesting. And I never forget, actually, where we used to be in the business terrace in Maidstone, there was a guy in his office who got a massive print of the River Medway and put it behind him. So when you'd be talking, you'd think you'd have Medway going along behind him. It's always quite interesting in a concept. But people, I haven't seen it. People might start be doing that. I mean, you can on Zoom, you can fake your background.
You can't. Yeah, I've got my
in the Bahamas or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one around the authenticity as well. I mean, I think you've covered a lot of this in your kind of your marketing days, but like we talked about businesses and brands being authentic, so that actually they get to see the real person behind it. Yeah. But again, overnight, a lot of us have been forced to sort of have to live and breathe that because of having to move straight away to working from home.
Exactly, and I think interestingly as well, this whole remote working has actually hit the small, medium companies way more than it's hit any other companies, because you look at the large enterprises, I'm thinking international companies at this point, typically they run off video calls a lot of the time. Like the whole of last year, I was consulting at GSK. I was the communications director for their merger with Pfizer. Now that project, literally all the time was calls. I was sitting in their office in West London, and it was still calling. But so for me, it's quite interesting how this has actually drastically changed SMEs a lot more than it has done these large international companies. But then the worry with that is the resources to spend on that. Like I've seen stories of companies having to pay for all their staff to have laptops because they've all been desktop computers and they couldn't get them set up at home. And there is a lot of implication that's now starting to cause. And I know I wouldn't mind being a tech provider at the moment. Be quite a good business to be in, probably.
So no, you're right. We've got a couple of clients in that space, and it's good times for those guys right now. It's because I tried to buy webcams. It took me like 3 weeks to find a decent webcam because, ironically, the ones that come as default in the Macs are I think they're like from the iPhone 5. So the quality of cameras, I suspect that you'll see in laptops will significantly increase. But yeah, it's an interesting one. We were slightly fortunate because we were planning for Brexit, so we were kind of anticipating.
Don't mention that now. That's old news.
Say again, mate.
That's old news now.
I know. I mean, bring back Brexit. I mean, it's been a while since we've spoken about it. It'd be a lovely conversation to have right now. I'd be like, why were we complaining about it? That's nothing compared to what we're kind of dealing with at the moment. But fortunately, that anticipation of that not going particularly well in terms of the access to our office, we fortunately moved everyone to laptops, but it came with significant financial implications, and the businesses that didn't have that sort of already prepped, they probably had to spend a few quid in the last couple of months, which is not what you want to be doing. Whilst everyone's trying to hold on to their cash. Just going forward, so when we get out into the new world, so what are the things that you want to take forward? So something that you're doing now that you've actually gone, you know what, this is working really well, I like it, and I want to keep on doing. Or what is anything that you've got that you actually want to take forward into that new world?
I think for me, it's actually a bit more of a personal thing, but I think it still relates very well into business.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, including myself, you now start to check up on people a lot more. We're all messaging our friends and family, how are they, and so on. And I think I actually got a bit of a worry that then when this is all over, we just stop doing that and we go back to how we were, where we chat to these people once in a blue moon. But actually, this regular checking in on people is so beneficial for their mental health. And I think the idea of us doing it right now because of the isolation, to try to keep that going would be great. And also, obviously, from a business point of view, that also helps because you're then, you're keeping people talking and so on. So that helps. But also from a personal point of view, it's massive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, I think you're there. Ant's doing a series of quizzes for his family, and I think he's got some family in Canada, some family in Australia, and getting those guys together, just doesn't happen, and certainly didn't happen remotely, or they weren't doing anything remotely, but suddenly now they're doing I think, was it weekly, maybe, Ant? I don't know. Or certainly every other week quizzes with that whole sort of extended family. And it's kind of interesting to see whether that will then continue, that sort of thing will continue beyond this phase. Is there any work-related activity that you think, or something that you've seen that could be beneficial? I mean, there's obviously the environmental aspect of all of this, as well as how that's, do we need to travel? I mean, could we use this as a reset to be like, actually every August, it's weekly. Thanks, Anne. Is it something that every August we just go, actually everyone works from home? It's about, could that happen? We never thought it could, but we now know it can. So, I just wonder.
Yeah, I think I like the homework. I like home working as a concept. I do also like being around people. I'm a people person, so I'm more of an office sort of person than I would be a home working person because I like to be around others. But I know for a lot of people, this has been a really good time. And I think especially something I am going to bring over is this momentum in engaging and reaching new people as well. So business-wise, we're trying to reach these new CHROs, really pushing on LinkedIn and resources and making calls and so on. Is that momentum we're starting to get is really trying to keep that on, because I think when you go back to the day-to-day as things were, we can easily get lost and just get back to how it was. Whereas just trying to think of, I think right now, people are a lot more focused on innovation, a lot more focused on that future, because we're having to think about the future a lot more. And try to keep that mindset when we go back to a day-to-day would be really beneficial.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, as I was saying just before this kind of show, is that obviously we've waited almost 12 years to do, so running a business for 12 years before we started to actually doing a show like this, because actually I kind of wanted to actually run a business and make sure that we knew what we were doing roughly. I don't know if that's the case or not, but we think we're doing all right. But now it's like
a merchandise for it.
Say again, mate?
You've got a merchandise for it now.
Merch, man. That's got to be it. That's a true sign of success. But now is a kind of a good time to do it. But I think the bit I was chatting to our brand and marketing team about is actually keeping the momentum to do that. But this is, again, talk to myself, not them, but to me, to make sure that actually it's something that we continue to do, because it's all well and good doing it now, but actually it's something I think could be really really beneficial for us as a business. But it's something that you've got to kind of keep the momentum and keep building that as well. And fingers crossed, you know, for you guys, you get that kind of opportunity to talk to all the guys that you need to now, build those leads, build that pipeline, and then you're kind of ready for that recovery. On the recovery side of things, what's your sort of your view based on what you've heard around the timelines and the speed of the recovery?
So, I think the best way I can phrase this. So, from one of the roles I have within the government, I know they're planning September to start bringing staff back into the offices.
Okay.
So that's when I was told that, I was like, oh my word, like that's a lot longer than what I was thinking things to be. They're planning September. Interestingly, my bank, they're also planning September, bringing their staff back into the office. And someone had the call with them. They were like, yeah, we're going to come back. So I think September's almost becoming a common month I'm now starting to hear. But I suppose there is the perk of that is people can be at home for summer and you can work outside in your garden and get a suntan whilst having your laptop on your lap. But it does feel like a long time.
It does feel like a long time.
I don't know if that would be full isolation or what that's going to be. You know, I'm not one to speculate, and I'm not this corona expert. But what people are saying around from an employee point of view, being till September is a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not making me happy right now. I'm not going to lie. It's I thought that was. I'm hoping you're wrong, Ben. That's all I'm going to say. I'm hoping you're wrong.
I'm hoping it's worst case planning. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah. I guess there is a chance. I mean, there's an economist I was listening to, and you know, the point that they made is actually they could release the lockdown in stages, perhaps. So that, again, there's different groups that are slightly less vulnerable, and hopefully that might be a way to go to gradually get there over a period of time. But at the same time, is they're also saying, well, actually, how many of us would be particularly excited about being on an aeroplane where you're flying to a foreign country, you don't really know the state of their medical system. There's no cure, there's no vaccination for the virus at that point. You know, I think that, you know, there could be particularly long, you know, reasonably long-term implications around travel, I would say, particularly, you know, air travel, until there's something a bit more sort of solid in place.
Especially now America's just but it really starting to see the effects of the pandemic now, that's going to affect travel a lot.
Massively so, yeah. Well, quickly moving away from that depressing note, moving to something slightly light-hearted. We always try to finish the chat with a brief game. So today we have, and this is open to everybody, so everybody in chat, feel free to unmute microphones. Dan, I can see you in the chat. Sophie, I know that you've won previous quizzes as well. So this today is going to be film theme songs. Okay, so I'm going to play them, and it's whoever either shouts it out or writes it in chat gets it. And again, Ben, if you don't remember, the prize is a triple ply toilet roll that will be delivered to you in 2022 when they're all back in stock. Okay, so you just need to remind me in 2022. Dan, did you win the last quiz? Did you do?
I did, yes. Yeah, thank you.
You already owed toilet roll, so if you'll be flush. Yes, I did just say flush with toilet roll. That was not.
My wife's going to be so pleased that year.
The puns are coming. Right, okay, so let's see. So this will be a song that relates to a film. Here we go. This is made before Ben was born, I think.
I think.
Any ideas?
I recognise it.
Hang on, I'll do a little bit more. Hang on, I'll move it forward a bit.
Back to the Future.
Star Wars or something like that.
Back to the Future, Dan's in with that one. One for Dan. Sorry, yeah, Ben, I need to try and find stuff that you were alive for, because actually you're so young that I don't know if there's anything in here that is... Hang on, this one. Okay, you're probably about 4. I'm joking. I don't know. Let's have a go. See if you know this one. I'll jump it forward a little bit because it's a bit slow. epic. It's about 3.5 hours long.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Who was that?
Amber.
Amber jumping in. Good work. That was Lord of the Rings. Okay, so we have this is getting now. There's going to be so many potential winners of toilet roll. Okay, here we go. I'll jump it forward a bit.
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park. Was that you again, Dan?
Afraid so.
Good man. He's all over this.
Watching too many films, I think.
I've completed Netflix.
You're one of the few people who have completed Netflix. Right. Okay. This one should be achieved. I know this is definitely before you were born, Ben, but it's a classic. Hold on.
Jaws.
Oh, got another one. He's
I
storming.
don't want to be that guy, but
You are that
it's
guy.
not a specialist subject.
You're absolutely that guy, Dan. But you can't. You just know your theme songs. That's all fine. Okay, hold on. We'll do one more. I think Dan's the winner. He is got loads of toilet paper coming his way in 2022. Hold on one second. Last one. It's quite a tricky one, this one, actually. See, if Dan's not getting this, then I don't think anyone's getting that. That is Batman.
Oh.
Theme from Batman. Okay, we'll do one last one and we'll conclude there. Hold on. Gladiator. Good work, Sophie. Congratulations. Ben, I'm sorry, mate. You are clearly doing far too much work and not watching enough Netflix, which is what I've concluded from today's quiz. But
I always fall asleep during films. I just sit there, my body goes, a couple of hours rest.
Well, it's certainly not holding you back from all the projects, mate. So congratulations with all the stuff you're doing. I think the speaking stuff comes back online in the not too distant future, but I'm sure you'll make a success of your recent project. Bless you, Sophie. But thanks very much for joining us, Ben. Thanks for all the insights, and yeah, hopefully catch up with you again at some point soon. Talk about the furlough group, and good luck with the rest of your calls. But thanks for coming on the show, and yeah, thanks very much everybody for tuning in. We will be back again next Wednesday at 12 o'clock. I think we might change the Wednesday time, but we're going to be coming back again at Friday at 4:30 as well. Next week we've got Brant from Eke Media on Wednesday, so be good to get his insight how his agency's faring in this kind of challenging time. So yeah, do tune in for that. In the meantime, have a good weekend. Hopefully get a chance to chill out and relax, and hopefully we'll be back to business as usual fairly soon. Thanks very much.